they say to me. Oh, hello, class. I didn't see you there. But now that I have you here, I want to tell you a little bit about this book, Peter Pan, by J.M. Barrie. Wow. So this book is an excellent book. One of my new favorites, I think it's become. I've always loved the story of Peter Pan. I've always meant to read the book, but I never got around to it. But this class has given me the opportunity to do so, and so I want to tell you a little bit about it. Let's go, shall we? So this book is an awesome book, like I said. It's about 200 pages of goodness. And this book is a modern fantasy book. And it is a modern fantasy because of a few different things. We'll talk about them. So the first one is consistency. So the author, J.M. Barrie, does a great job of being consistent in his writing. Once he describes a pirate, how they're awful, nasty human beings, he keeps it consistent, like pirates are always bad. And once he describes Peter Pan as being a youthful boy who always forgets and who just always wants to be young, that's the way Peter's character is. Like, he never really changes, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's how it happens. Also, the author does a great job suspending disbelief in this story. So the children, like Wendy, Michael, and John, they start out in London. And then Peter Pan comes and he takes them away to Neverland. And they start in the real world and then they go to Neverland, which is obviously a make-believe world. They have all kinds of adventures, fighting pirates and joining up with the Indians and flying places. It's awesome. You should read it. But anyway, J.M. Barrie also does a great job paying attention to detail. He describes the Neverland and different aspects of it, like the Mermaid's Lagoon, where the children spend a lot of time just like swimming around or trying to play with the mermaids, or they fall asleep on I forget how to say the word Mourner's Rock. It's Marooners, that's what it is. People, like the pirates, will abandon people on the rock, and then the tide comes in and they drown, and it's awful. But the children will play on that rock just to like take naps when the tide's out, obviously. But in one scene, Wendy and Peter get stuck on the rock, and the tide's coming in, and Peter's like, I don't know what to do, and he helps Wendy escape, but he's stuck, and then, as luck would have it, this bird's nest, a never bird, her nest has fallen in the water, and so this never bird stays on the nest that floats in the water. And so the never bird tries to help Peter, and she gives him her nest, and then she is able to find another nest. But it's just kind of crazy adventures like that happen in the Neverworld that wouldn't really happen in real life, but that's what happens when you're with Peter Pan. So J.M. Barrie does a great job with detail in that, just showing like a bunch of different scenes where things are kind of crazy, but that's kind of what happens in Neverland. Something else that's awesome about this book that makes it a modern fantasy is the themes in it. So one of the themes, obviously, is the idea of growing up. Like, all children, I think the first line of the book is like, I'll read it to you. All children except one grow up. And that's one of the themes in this book, is Peter doesn't want to grow up, and he never ever wants to leave Neverland and become a man. But Wendy and John and Michael, they go to Neverland because they also don't want to grow up. They just want to be little kids. But at some point along the way, they realize, they're like, wow, it's time to grow up. And so they have to leave Neverland and go back home. And all the Lost Boys go with them back to London, and they all grow up, and you see them like many years later, like in their grown-up lives. And it's just kind of an interesting thing to tell children. It's like, you can have fun when you're young, but like eventually you're gonna have to grow up, and it's not always a bad thing. Like, it's a good thing to grow up and get married and to start a life and have a job and things like that. But where it is kind of scary, like, don't be afraid of just letting go and like growing up. Another theme that is pretty worthwhile for children is the theme of mothers. And in this book, mothers are super important. I mean, Wendy and John and Michael, they run away from their mother, and I mean, I think we've all at some point run away, haven't we? Just me? No? Okay. Anyway, so they run away from home, and their mother's like, oh no, and in the Neverland, Wendy actually becomes Peter Pan and the Lost Boys' mother. She becomes their mother, and she starts caring for them like a mother would. And the pirates are jealous because they're like, oh, we don't have a mother, oh no. But eventually Wendy realizes, she's like, no, I need my mother, like, I can't keep doing this. And so they all go back to London and live with their mother. But just how important like mothers are in this book is a pretty important theme that all children, I think, can really relate to, because mothers are the best, aren't they? Yeah. Yeah, and those are pretty much some of the things that make this book a modern fantasy. I love this book, love the movie, love everything about the story of Peter Pan. So I would encourage you guys to go and read it, love it, enjoy it. That's all. Thanks for listening. Bye.